Here's a paradox I can't stop thinking about. What if the fall of man wasn't a failure in the plan, but part of the plan all along? Stick with me. If the story starts in a perfect garden, why not just keep it that way? Why allow a choice that could break perfection? Here's the simple answer. Love without freedom isn't love. If I'm forced to do the right thing, it's compulsion, but not devotion. So from the first page, the story gives humans a real choice, because genuine righteousness requires freedom to choose good over evil. But that opens the door to everything messy: mistakes, shame, blame, exile. Wouldn't a good God avoid that? This is where the best part of the plan sneaks in. The arc of the story isn't garden to garden, it's garden to eternal city. Naivety into wisdom, naivety into character, naivety into eternal perfection and glory. Not a museum of naive purity, but a kingdom of people who choose the good freely because they love it. There's an old phrase for this: felix culpa, happy fault. Not because evil is good, but because good isn't really good, unless it can be chosen instead of evil. And because a God big enough to redeem the worst things can write an even better ending to this scenario. Courage doesn't exist without danger. Mercy doesn't exist without guilt. Forgiveness, sacrifice, steadfast love. They're born and magnified when things break. The story hints at this from the jump. The rescue isn't a patch, it's the blueprint. Lamb slain from the foundation of the world is not an afterthought, but a spoiler. Redemption was baked in before the fall was acted out. So why allow the serpent, the tree, the risk? Because the endgame isn't robots in a garden. It's sons and daughters who know darkness and still choose light. That's a different kind of purity. Not a weak innocence, but a tested, proven, and robust love of righteousness. Unfortunately, this doesn't make pain painless. If you've lost something real, the plan doesn't immediately restore it, but it reframes it. It says, the worst thing isn't the last thing. The author doesn't just edit typos. He writes resurrections. He writes eternal life and eternal joy. On my human level, every day I get a garden moment: mistake, hide, confess, forgiveness, knowledge to do better in future, power in the wisdom that knowledge brings. And every time I choose the hard good, I feel myself nudge forward. Little deaths to ego, little resurrections of character. Here's the paradox hook again. The fall shows me what I'm capable of at my worst. The plan shows me what I'm invited into at my best. And the bridge between them isn't me white-knuckling better behavior. It's God's grace and my faith. Grace and faith don't ignore the fall. They walk into it and carry me out. So was the fall a mistake? From my side, sometimes I mess up. From God's side, no. He makes a way out and into something much better than purity wrapped in naivety. And somehow, the story that starts with "don't eat" ends with "come and feast." If today feels like shame, hiding, thorny ground, don't stop reading. The plan is still God's plan, and the author is faithfully devoted to it. Walk in the pathway written and that he has personally walked in himself. Hebrews 5:8-9 says, though Jesus Christ were a son, yet he learned obedience by the things that he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him. How could Jesus Christ have ever learned obedience by the things that he suffered and been made perfect unless he had experienced life in a fallen world? And how could we come unto a perfect man ourselves, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, without Jesus Christ first suffering and acquiring his fullness and eternal perfection? The fall was clearly ever meant to have happened so that man could leave behind a naive purity and instead acquire a purity and eternal glory based on a love of and devotion to righteousness, despite living in a fallen world. To faithfully follow Jesus Christ into eternal life.